Fred Warner's out for the year, and now the Niners don't know whether they should be buyers or sellers. We'll help them figure it out. Good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you are. Welcome to the 49ers Playbook. I'm Grant Cohn. That's former Raiders offensive coordinator Tom Walsh. And we're going to be helping the 49ers figure out where they stand right now. They're 4-2, but they're emotionally distraught after losing Fred Warner. Before we get into where they go from here, what did you think of their performance in Tampa, mostly without Fred Warner? It seemed like up until that point when Baker ran for 15 yards on 3rd and 14, the Niners were really in it.
You know, they were, and I thought that run by Baker scrambling was, if it wasn't someone named Lamar Jackson, I was really surprised that he was able to pull it off, because that was outstanding, the effort that he gave. And then he came back a couple of plays later and just drilled that touchdown pass, and that was like the final nail in the coffin.
How do you think the Niners perform in this game, given that the Buccaneers might be the best team in the NFC?
Well, I think the Niners will rebound. Sometimes when a player gets injured, like Fred did, and he's out for the season, other players rise to the occasion. Their quality of play accelerates and elevates. They take a greater ownership in performance now, and they know that they've all got to be able to step up and kind of fill in the gaps that may exist with because of the loss of Warner.
Did their performance make you feel like they're better than you thought? They're worse than you thought? They're still contenders? What do you think?
I still think they're contenders. I don't think they're going to be a top seed, but I think their play, if they can continue, and the quarterbacks, whomever they may be, can just get through the injury issues at wide receiver and things like that and put some points on the board, I tell you, they can. I still think they can be no worse than a wild card entrant.
Yeah, I mean, it hurts to lose Bosa and Fred Warner, but you look around the league and it's hard to see who the dominant team is or which team's definitely going to win the Super Bowl. It seems like the league's wide open, and the Niners have still a pretty favorable schedule here.
You're correct, Grant. No one's going to run away with it this year. I think, first of all, you look at the injuries each week. My goodness, the list is longer than your arm, and players are dropping like flies. So every club is going to be stuck with the possibility of how can we manufacture enough wins with the healthy players that we have and just take it a week at a time. And I think it's going to be important to see how the Niners are at the trade deadline, as to whether they think it might be necessary to make a move to get a pass rusher, or if they decide somebody steps up between now and 3 or 4 weeks from now and plays well enough to where they say, well, we don't need to invest a high draft pick for next year to be able to get a pass rusher now. We've got guys who are adequately filling in that we can make it work.
Last week, we were talking about how the Niners should trade for Max Crosby. Trade 2 firsts for Max Crosby. It seems like maybe that might be a little aggressive for the Niners stand right now. Is there? What do you think?
Once Fred went down, to me that would change the whole picture, so to speak, about the necessity for me to make a trade.
Mm-hmm.
Because if we don't fare well as a ball club the next few weeks, and I'm in Niner management thinking of this now, then there's no need for me to swap a couple of number ones to bring in a guy who I thought could be the difference maker and allow the Niners to climb the ladder into the higher levels of playoff opportunities. I'm going to take a wait and see attitude, and let's see how the Niners play defensively, how they play off. What's their win-loss record going to be in a couple of weeks prior to the November 4th or whatever it is trade deadline?
Yeah, they could be 4-5 if they lose the next 3.
Exactly. And then obviously I got to use my draft picks for players that I need for next year. And my chances to get to the playoffs and get into the championship round and get into the Super Bowl are diminished greatly. So I'm not going to squander those picks. I need them.
Yeah, it seems that if you're going to trade for a player, maybe it's not a 1-year rental. like Trey Hendrickson. If you trade a 3rd-round pick for Trey Hendrickson, he's not going to be on your team next year. And while you're not giving up on 2025, you're not putting all your chips into 2025 at the same time.
Correct. And I've got to make basically look at the return on the investment that I'm going to make if I choose to make the trade. And the key to me is, let's see how you stack up against the Falcons, and then you got Houston, and then you got the Giants. And then a bye, correct?
Yes. Well, is it a bye? I'm not sure, but that's when the trade deadline would be right after the Giants game.
Trade deadline, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So we'll see what happens in the next few weeks. This week, you got Mac Jones is limited in practice. Brock Purdy is limited in practice. I asked Kyle Shanahan. He said that Brock is more limited than Mac. Given what we know and what we've seen the last few weeks, which quarterback do you think should start? Will start is a different question.
Yeah. Based upon health and everything, I would still start Mac. And from my perspective, if I'm looking at the situation, I've got to approach it from the fact that I may have to play two quarterbacks on Sunday, because when I look at what Atlanta does on defense, I know that they are an aggressive defense. They bring pressure. They bring 5 and 6-man dogs. They're going to create heat, especially with the quality of where the offensive line is right now. There's a couple of players in that offensive line for the Niners against whom I want to bring some real serious pressure and some games on the Falcon defensive side of the ball to test those guys if they can hold up. Because even last week, if you watched, or Monday night, you watched Atlanta against Buffalo, hey, Josh Allen was not sitting in the rocking chair throwing the ball. He was scrambling, he was running, he was under duress. And that's a healthy Josh Allen. So if I've got an opponent like the Niners with a limited quarterback who's got leg injuries and all that, I'm going to bring the heat with him and see how he handles it.
Yeah, and it's not just the Niners quarterbacks who are banged up. It's their offensive line. Dominic Puni didn't practice yesterday. He's had a knee injury all year. So it seems like this is how they want to play defense, and the Niners are vulnerable to it. So, yeah, it seems to me that I wouldn't play Brock in this game because you're invested so much in him. You've already had him re-aggravate the injury once. If he goes out there and re-aggravates it a second time, it's a scandal. And if he loses, it's a big story. If Mac Jones plays and loses, it's not catastrophic. And if he gets injured, it's not catastrophic.
Well, the other thing also you have to look at, if Purdy were to go out and injure it again even more seriously, he could end up like Joe Burrow, where you're getting toe surgery,
right,
because of the ligament damage or whatever. And then you're looking at a rehab and recovery that carries you into 2026, and he's gone for the whole season without a chance of coming back later this year if you need him.
Yeah. Also, it seems like for Brock to give the Niners the best chance to win, he needs to be pretty close to 100% healthy, because such a big part of what he does is run around.
Yeah, his mobility is a tremendous asset for him. Obviously it's well noted and seen that he doesn't have great arm talent. He's got good enough arm talent, but not outstanding arm talent. And so when he throws the ball, he needs to make sure his platform is solid and he's got the ability to put his foot in the ground and transfer his weight.
Did you happen to see the video I posted yesterday of Brock Purdy throwing at practice?
No, I did not.
Okay, I posted a long one. Check it out. I'll send it to you. I want to know what you think, because you have a good eye for identifying whether a quarterback's really letting it rip or not.
Yeah, the bottom line is, bent knee to bent knee, you got to see the transfer of the body weight, plant and drive. It's just, it's common. You just can't sit there with arm throws. Even the best quarterbacks have got to be able to step into it and throw with conviction.
Okay, so you mentioned how the Falcons defense is going to approach this. It's looking like it's probably going to be Mac Jones for another week. Maybe no Dominic Puni. Probably no Ricky Pearsall, but it does look like George Kittle's coming back. Let's help Kyle Shanahan game plan for this week, even though he has his game plan done already. What would you try to do if you were Kyle against his defense with what you have at your disposal?
Well, the thing about it is, obviously Kittle's going to get a share of balls, stick routes, choice routes, pressure routes, crossing routes. They're all George's repertoire over the years. But the thing about it is, you look at the bump and run, the pressure coverage, and all that. I want to be able to move players around offensively, so at the snap, I've got chances to give some players free releases from the line of scrimmage. I will also use motions and shifts to be able to create some rub situations, or basically, as you call them, picks. But in the NFL, they're called rubs from an offensive.
Because picks are they're not legal.
Yeah, if you're a defensive guy, you're getting picked. If you're an offensive guy, you're rubbing the guy. Okay,
right.
But I would do that because when you want to play man-to-man, and if I could rub off on defensive backs and or linebackers especially, and get backs or receivers free releases and freedom to run the field, that's an advantage rather than having to win with them running man-to-man in tight coverage, and where the precision of the throw has to be so ideal because you got a receiver and a DB going, man-to-man tight coverage. My window is very small, but if I can get rubs and get a free release, or even release a back scat hot, and if they don't peel quickly enough, I can dump him the ball, and I got a guy running free. So I got to think about the fact my routes this week have to be man beaters, have to be pressure beaters, have to beat tight coverage, and I've got to have players who can run across the field, not just vertical stems to get open.
Right, because they're going to bring pressure, and they're going to play man-to-man coverage. They're trying to take away the quick throws. So you have to create some quick throws for Mac Jones. Otherwise, it's going to be another 5-sack day.
Well, correct. And then the other thing is I've got to be able to create space into which he can throw the ball. So I can't have a receiver run and just think it's a foot race. I've got to be able to find a way to give my receivers or running backs an edge where they can stem a route or stick a guy or get a rub that gives them a clean release. And I have a more open receiver to whom I can throw the ball.
All right, well, let's check out some play designs. This is what we call the Playbook breakdown segment powered by Pass Reps, where we make you smarter about football every week. You can get pass reps yourself and actually practice calling plays before Sunday for only $1.99 a month. Just go to passreps.com or click the link below. It really does help the channel. So come support me, come support Tom. Check out passreps.com. He developed it himself. Tom, what are we looking at this week to help the Niners?
Okay, with all the man coverage, with all the press coverage and the pressure routes needed to be able to get the ball out more quickly, our mesh concept allows rubs. You look at the dotted lines. I got the two wide receivers, the Z and the X. We're going to take the Z even with short motion or line them up snug or close, and he's going to go and look to rub the opposite defender covering your X receiver. So the Z will go over the top, the X will be underneath. Okay. Then if it's zoned, they can sit down in the opposite tackle boxes, but the opportunities for man-to-man are more important. So I got a rub going there. The other thing is I got my H receiver in the slot on the weak side, running the 9 route. If I have press coverage and they've got no safety in the middle of the field and they're in their 5 and 6 man pressures and you're playing bump and run on my H, I've got a chance for an easy throw, a quick access for a big play. And then on the other side, we go over to the fullback side in the backfield. We're sliding weak, or we can use scan protection and direct the traffic where the line's going to block 5 of the most dangerous rushers. If I don't have my F picking up protection, I can scat release them, and I'm going to get some traffic with the Z as well as the Y on the release where I can get the F out there. And if it's scat hot, I can put the ball on him in the flat right now if the Falcons don't peel off. If they stay man coverage, now I've got some obstruction to allow my rail route by the F to have a chance for the big play. And so there's some good options for you.
Yeah. I mean, the Niners throw that rail route a lot to use check or to McCaffrey.
You do that down in the 22, 25-yard line, even the 15-yard line going out in the high red zone, you got a chance for a touchdown. If I do it on 3rd and 3, 3rd and 4, I've got my Z and my X coming on the mesh for the rub with the Z over the top and the X coming underneath. And we've seen Kyle in the past run a single receiver cross on a shallow cross or an under route. This gives you the rub opportunity as well to get that receiver clean where he can break out the back door and catch the ball on the run and then turn up the field.
Yeah, I like this very much. I'm really interested in that rail route. It seems like something the Niners used to call a lot. I wouldn't call it for use check. I feel like he's a little past his prime. Maybe even McCaffrey too. Although they used to call that play for McCaffrey. They called it last year for him, and he caught one deep against Tampa. Maybe, I mean, remember that guy on the team that they pay money to but don't play anymore named Isaac Guerrero? He runs a 4.3. Maybe he could run that route.
That's true. The other thing about it, the great thing about it also is the possibility of being able to rub off the linebacker who has that back man-to-man with the Z coming in motion and a tight end's release on his hash route.
Yeah.
To be able to get the one-on-one right there, now's your shot down the field. Watch as you come across. I'm trying to rub a guy. If I rub off that backer, look at how wide open it is. I've cleaned out that whole right side of the field with the Z coming in short motion, taking the corner with a man-to-man. I can rub off the backer, and then now there's nobody there to help in coverage for the backer who got rubbed.
See, I would like to throw this pass to Guerrero because Guerrero, I don't know why they're so down on him. At least he's a home run hitter, so to speak. There's no one else on the Niners offense, including McCaffrey, who's really going to take the ball and score from 40 yards out.
No. It's unfortunate, but that's where they are in terms of quote-unquote team speed.
Yeah, absolutely. Every week, Tom puts together a fresh game plan inside Pass Reps with updated rosters, new opponents, and real plays from the NFL level. Step into the offensive coordinator's role for less than $2 a month. Link is below, or just go to passreps.com. Again, getting the subscription really helps the channel, so please do so. And again, Tom is putting this together every week. So at this point, people are saying that Kyle's doing his best job coaching this year. Well, I wonder why.
Yeah, did that game ball ever arrive for you?
I haven't gotten a game ball yet, and when I get it, I will send it to you so we can share it. You put it right behind you. Okay, let's help Robert Saleh this week. He's going against one of the best running backs in the league. What do you think of Bijan Robinson and Michael Penix and what the Falcons are trying to do?
I tell you, I was thoroughly impressed with Bijan Robinson. I tell you, that he had the 81-yard touchdown run. But the guy had 19 carries, 170 yards. They ran the outside zone, and their combination blocks, when you look at it from the end zone with the guard and tackle working together, the center and the guard working together, they executed, they got the hip seal, and they got the two guys working to feel like a road grader, and they step off and they peel off on the backer at the second level. And I tell you give that kid a glimmer of daylight, his acceleration is going to take him through the hole and he'll be gone before you know it. And your secondary now, your safeties are forced to play in space, trying to tackle a guy who's got an open field. It's like going down to 280 and there's no one else on the freeway but you, and you're trying to, tackle this kid.
Yeah. So run defense will be at a premium, but it seems like even after Fred Warner went down, the Niners' run defense was much better than their pass defense. Now they were facing Baker Mayfield, although he didn't have his receivers. Now they're facing Michael Penix Jr. What do you think? I mean, are they going to get pressure? Is Penix going to make them look bad? What do you think?
I watched him throw a couple things that I thought that were advantageous from the defensive perspective. Some of his trajectories on certain routes, like the corner routes to shake routes, the ball's too flat. And he would have had a little bit more arc on the ball, a little bit more air under him. He could have had some more completions. But he's like a young quarterback. Too many of the young guys, I remember watching Fields when he was still with the Steelers, they try to line drive the ball too much. Whereas the savvy guys who are a little bit older know how to put a little bit of trajectory on the ball and throw a ball predicated upon where the defender is as to how much velocity is needed and plus the location where it has to go. But I tell you, from an offensive perspective for them, I also was very impressed with the ex-USC wide receiver, Drake London. He had a phenomenal game. And then, of course, I've always been a fan of Kyle Pitts, the tight end who came. He never has blossomed as a receiver. I look at a guy like that and go, oh, my God, this guy could catch 7 balls minimum a game. He's got great speed. He's tall, lean, lanky. He's agile. He's mobile. He can be a inline tight end on the zone schemes, and then also a detached tight end out in space to create some matchup problems for your secondary.
Yeah, and the Niners have had
Yeah, those are the two big guys in the passing game you got to worry about.
Yeah, the Niners have had two big problems matching up with tight ends in the passing game. Marquise Siegel, the rookie's been getting torched. Jair Brown hasn't been much better. So what does Robert Saleh do here? Does he hang back, rush 4, play zone, or does he need to blitz? I mean, what are some things that Robert Saleh needs to do here?
Oh, I've got to start with zone first, because the thing about, I've got to stop their run first, or they're never going to quit running the ball.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Penix is not going to throw it 40 times a game. If he throws it 22, 23 times, they're running the ball 31, 34 times a game. And as long as I've got, and they got the Algier, the second running back, that kid's not too bad either. He's more of an interior runner, a little thicker, a little bigger mass through the button hips, and not the sleek, explosive build like Robinson. But I've got to stop the run first. I've got to force Penix to make the throws, and then realize he's got two legitimate weapons. And then I've got to see how it shakes out and how much pressure I can get on him with my 4-man rush before I begin to think about going to more exotic pressure schemes on defense, and then having to play some man coverage.
Yeah, like force the young quarterback to prove that he can actually decipher the different zone coverages and put the ball where it needs to be, as opposed to with man coverage, you can just pick out a matchup you like.
Well, the other thing about it also is, I have to stop the run first. So I need to have my safeties have eyes. They've got to have gap integrity, gap responsibility. I can't have everyone turning and chasing guys down the field on a run where I don't have enough bodies at the line. I got to have 8 and 9 guys closing and hats on the ball. And the key thing is going to be the gap integrity, taking on the offensive blocker with the proper shoulder, so I keep my free hand where it needs to be, so that our picket fence doesn't have a big hole in it and a gash, and the guy Robinson goes racing through there. And that's what happened to Buffalo the other night. Oh my goodness, we got a couple guys who take on the blocks with the wrong shoulders. They're in the proper gap, but they take it on with the wrong arm, and they get pinned, and it's a free access for the running back to just down the field.
Joseph Erdberg wants to know if you would convert Isaac Guerrero to a wide receiver.
No, I'm sorry. There's a type of a build that works best for wide receivers. And, when you get a guy who's a running back, they're usually thicker in the hips and all that. They can't make that transition in my mind.
All day, every day, Kim says, hey, coach, I made a statement on Grant's show about Brock and Dylan Gabriel, saying that they're the same quarterback, except Brock landed on a good team. What do you think?
Oh, I tell you, when I first saw Dylan a couple of years ago, he reminded me of your former Bruin quarterback, the left-hander that y'all had, Cade McNown, years ago, who the Bears took. I think it's in maybe 97 or 98 as a first-round draft pick. And at the time, I had a coach contact me and say, look at this guy, what do you think? And I said, I wouldn't take him. And I thought he was soft. I didn't think he could play. Sure enough, he didn't pan out. Unfortunately, hopefully he's doing well today, whatever his chosen career is. But I also had the same thing about Gabriel. And I look at him, he's a little bit of a softer thrower than Purdy is. So
yeah, Purdy gets everything he can into it.
Correct.
He has a bigger windup.
Yeah. And Gabriel just doesn't, right? His size does not, impress me. He's like in the old days when you didn't have to have the radar gun throwing 100 miles an hour. You had guys like Randy Jones and other pitchers like that who threw the sinkers and the junk balls and all that. He's a junk ball quarterback. He doesn't have a rocket for an arm, and he's a small kid.
Propa says the Niners are an iconic team. Players who request a trade should be obliged. Oh, you don't want to be here? Go to Cleveland and we'll use your day 2 pick to find our next great linebacker. Play hardball. Is that how Al felt?
I tell you, there are stories and then there's stories, but the thing about Al is that he was a very good talent evaluator. Now, in contrast, Bill Walsh, that we used to always get in conversations, always believed in getting rid of a player a year before you did. Unfortunately, at times, Al hung on to a guy a year longer than he should have because of his tremendous loyalty that he had and the belief that the guy would be able to get it done. I remember one year he brought in, I think, 6 different linebackers to audition for spots that we had on defense. And they all were former number 1 draft picks. And he thought, one of these guys is going to show up and have that, surge as an elder statesman, as a player with his experience and his savvy to be able to have a good season. And we did end up with an Oklahoma kid who ended up having over 90 something tackles, but we played him as a stack linebacker, and he was protected and he was able to use his speed, and he was a tackling machine. So, sometimes you got to find a way to manufacture a front. We had to change our defensive look a little bit to allow that player to have that freedom to run.
All right, let's make some prize picks. I think it's time. Let me get the prize picks on the screen. Okay, and then we'll make our prediction. Then I have a question for you about Brandon Ayuk. Start with rushing yards, since we don't know who the quarterback is just yet. Christian McCaffrey, 59.5. He's been struggling to get there. What do you think? More or less? Fewer?
I hate to say it, I say fewer.
Fewer. Yeah. Yeah. Bijan Robinson, 78.5. More or fewer?
I say more.
Yeah. Is he the best running back in the league?
Run. Yeah, one run could put him over the top.
It's true. Would you say he's the best running back in the league right now?
I tell you, I've always been a fan of the kid in Detroit, Jahmyr Gibbs.
Yeah, he's good.
And Swift and those. But I tell you, this guy can be, and he's also very gifted as a receiver. He's no slouch catching the ball either. So he's got the talent. Right now, this kid has got talent dripping out of his ears. He's the real deal.
Okay, Kyle Pitts, 38.5 receiving yards. He had 18 against Buffalo, but 70 against Washington. What do you think? More or fewer?
I'll say more for him.
Interesting. Drake London.
Here's the thing. As a quarterback, I would use my tight end for my move the chains, get from 1st and 10 to 2nd and 3, 2nd and 4. I'd throw some pressure routes, some stick routes, some hook routes, a little bit of Hank. And I would give him 5 catches and he would have, 50, 55 yards. And that'd be enough because that keeps me in a rundown play calling scheme longer and out of 3rd and long.
I know you liked him a lot coming out of college. I feel like you could do a better job than the Falcons have done with him the first 4 years.
Tight ends for the Raiders. You go back and look at the history from the Raymond Chester and David Casper and Todd Christensen and Ethan Horton. I mean, we take guys and move them to tight end, and then the guy ends up catching 90 balls.
Interesting. How about Christian McCaffrey as a receiver, 55.5 yards receiving?
I'll say more.
Yeah, that seems to be the play. And then Penix, passing, 225.5 passing yards, more or fewer?
I'll say fewer.
Fewer. Okay. That's interesting. I guess we'll see who you think's going to win this game. Those are our picks. We'll flex them. We'll submit them. Download PrizePicks yourself today. It's available in 45 and 50 states. Use promo code COHN, Cohn, play $5 and get $50 instantly in lineups. All right, it's prediction time. Falcons just beat the Bills. Falcons just put the league on notice. Now they got to fly to Santa Clara on a short week and face probably Mac Jones and Kendrick Bourne, who are red hot. Who's going to win?
Oh, I think, I've chewed this over a little bit, and I can see where there are opportunities for both teams. Obviously the Niners on defense are, playing a little bit shorthanded, and God, offensively, I just worry about the offensive line. I tell you, I worry about the protection packages this week and being able to have them hold up. If I can get the Niners to have to play block 5 guys or 6 guys and put the pressure on, and knowing that Jones, is limited in movement, and then if Purdy's playing, he's already limited in movement. If I can get them off of the platform, I can have some pressure. I thought this would be a 27-17 ball game with Atlanta when I first looked at it Monday night. Now I say it's maybe 24-17. I still think Atlanta has a bit of an edge because they're healthier. They're mentally on the upbeat, and the Niners are trying to rebound and bounce back. And so even though it's a home game in Santa Clara, I had the Falcons with it by a touchdown.
Is it fair to say that even though Fred Warner and Nick Bosa are out, that your biggest concerns are still with the Niners offense in this game?
I always have a concern because how many points do the Niners score in offensively? Look at their production in the red zone. See, the other thing about it is you look at the red zone packages, the Niners, they got one touchdown run last week for the first time, I believe, all season. And, as much as you like to throw touchdown passes and you like the headlines and all the stats and all that stuff, you got to be able to run the ball in the red zone.
Yeah.
And I don't see in past performances over the years from Kyle, even when Christian was healthy, the desire to make it a physical ball game and to run in the red zone. And sometimes that comes from Kyle because he likes to design what he thinks are touchdown plays. And, you get more glory and more accolades for designing the touchdown than you do for designing a run. But there's a physical element of the game that has to be played. And that's where the Niners are lacking, in that they are not punishing the opposition with the run game. And, I tell you what, if I'm going
They don't have the running back or the offensive line to punish.
Correct. And see, so from a defensive perspective, I'm more concerned about stopping the passing game, knowing that my box on defense can stop the run. I don't need to put an 8th defender in there. I don't need to go to 4 quarters where I have 2 safeties can fill. I have 9 defenders in the box. I can stop it with 7.
Right. Yeah. Well, it'll be interesting to see what the Niners do. It's interesting. You mentioned their red zone offense. They're 5th worst in the league in red zone scoring percentage. The team with the 6th worst scoring percentage in the red zone, Atlanta. So we could look at another Eddie Pinheiro versus the kicker game. Those have been very exciting.
Well, I tell you what, there have been, I think, last week alone, there were 7 or 8 games that were decided in the last 2 minutes. So the parity in the league has gotten to the point where there are not a lot of blowouts anymore. The dynasties are gone. It's kind of like, everyone's kind of middle of the road. And it comes down to the final. It's like the NBA. Who's got the ball last? Who's got the chance to put up a 3 to win the game?
What'd you think of Jake Moody hitting that game winner?
I was happy for the kid. Everyone, he deserves the. And then he made 4 out of 5. One of them was blocked, but through no fault of his own. But it's nice to see him be successful.
I got one more question for you. It's a big picture question. We keep asking Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch about Brandon Ayuk. It's been almost a full year since he hurt his knee. It was week 7 last year. So this is week 7 this year. And whenever they're asked about Ayuk, they say, he's getting better, but there's still no timetable. And it's the strangest thing because you'd think they'd want him out there. My question to you is, what incentive does Ayuk have to come back and play this season?
To be honest, he doesn't have an incentive. If he is not mentally in tune with himself and feel that he's at the top of his game, why is he going to put himself out on the field? Because then all he's going to do is open up himself for criticism and say, well, he's not as good as he was, and we overpaid him, and we did
the contract. Yeah,
correct. And so he can save himself a lot of grief until he feels like he himself mentally is ready to go. The doctor can say you're physically 100%, but if you're not mentally there as well, that 100% physical is never going to show because you got the mental drag and you don't feel correct and you don't feel right, as the player says. I don't feel right today. Well, and the bottom line is that I coached a receiver years ago who's an outstanding receiver who got scoped on his knee by the U.S. ski team doctor up in Colorado, and they gave him the all clear, the all go mentally. They said, this guy's fine, he can go. he himself would come and say, God, I hear something in my knee, or I hear this, I feel that. And he never was quite the same after the surgery, not because of the physical recovery, but because of his mental recovery, where he wasn't always trying to. It's like if your car has broken down previously, the next time you're driving down to Niner practice or the facility, your ears are always in tune, like you're listening to your vehicle, you're listening to the engine because, oh, I think I heard a tick here, I heard this. That's the way people are with their knees.
Yeah.
You're listening to your body and you're waiting for pretty soon it becomes something that you create, even though it may not be there. You think you heard it or you think you felt it, and then that becomes the debilitating factor for you.
Yeah, it seems like, if he were to rush back and play in the next couple weeks before the trade deadline, I mean, maybe the Niners could trade him. Maybe he'd like to leave, but where would you go? The Giants? I mean, maybe he thinks if they're going to trade me, why don't I just wait, take the rest of the year off, and they can trade me next year. I'm in no rush. And again, like you said, if he goes out there and doesn't look like Brandon Ayuk, that's a big problem considering all the money he's getting paid.
Well, the other thing, think about this. He's had, since last injury in the last season, he's been off the field, been rehabbing. He has not probably gone full speed at any time thus far. And then now he's going to go out, even though a 21-day window in which to get him back up to practice and everything before they can activate him.
Yep.
Where is he going to get that kind of practice now during the season, during midweek when the Niners are prepping for another ball game, for him to feel that he's got that kind of competence feeling to be able to execute at full speed?
Yeah, I mean, we saw him last year with no training camp, the first 7 weeks of the season. He didn't seem like himself. He wasn't particularly special. When he had his best years, he was the 49ers like Iron Man of the offseason. Now he's coming off an injury, no offseason, no training camp, just going to throw him out there week 7, 8, 9 and expect him to be better than last year or the guy you paid him to be. I wouldn't expect that.
It's not physically possible. And then mentally, right. I don't think he'll be at that point regardless.
Right. So when the Niners say he's getting better, but he's still not close to coming back, it could be another year.
Correct. It could be another off season and, another more aggressive 4 months from January to April or whatever before mini camps or whatever. And he then has a better chance to recover full speed.
Well, I mean, if you're serious about him being part of your future, I mean, you gave him the contract. I think you thought he'd be part of your future at one point. What's the point in rushing him back, right? You want to make sure that he's himself when he eventually does come back.
Correct. And the other thing about it is I've got to rely upon my other guys in the meantime to make plays. And then if I bring Ayuk back, who am I going to sit and to whom I'm now throwing the ball is not going to be getting balls that he was getting while Ayuk's out. So then now I got to worry about how that affects the mental outlook of those other players on whom I become more dependent when Ayuk was not playing.
I got a bonus question for you. Ricky Pearsall's out with a PCL injury. He didn't practice yesterday. I see him walking around. He seems okay, but apparently he's not. I think Brock Bowers has the same injury. What do you know about this? It seems kind of debilitating.
Well, it is. The PCL being your posterior cruciate ligament. Yeah, think about this. If your knee is not well and you've got strained ligaments, partial tears or whatever, they say, well, your meniscus doesn't require surgery. It's a first degree, second degree, or third degree tear. If you've got a first degree meniscus, you might be out 3 or 4 weeks, but still by the same token, there's a partial tear in there or there's a strain in there. And of course, the other thing, Grant, is not every player recovers at the same ratio as everybody. Everyone's knee is different. We all have knees, but all of the knees are, all our structure is different. Our Q angles are different, things like that. And I tell you, Bauer will probably be out past the bye the Raiders have coming up in a couple of weeks. And if I'm Pearsall, with speed being my game, meaning Ricky Pearsall, I'm not going to go out there unless I have my speed.
Oof. Oof. So you replace Deebo Samuel with a speed guy who needs to be close to 100% healthy to be playable. So he's a really good player when he's out there, but he's not out there that much. Oof.
A lot of that is the history of track guys. I
Yeah.
hate to say it. They're different birds.
Yep.
They're different than a football player. It's hard to find track guys who are good football players.
Before I let you go, what do you think of the job that Kendrick Bourne has done while everything else is falling apart on offense?
I tell you what, I'm very pleased and I'm happy to see him flourish. And he makes the catches. His run after catch ability his efforts there. He's playing probably the best ball of his career, and he should be applauded for it.
It's just interesting. Like Ayuk's gone. Demarcus Robinson seems rusty at best, and Jawan Jennings seems like he would like to be on any team but this team. And Kendrick Bourne, the dancer, is so excited to be on the 49ers. They need this energy.
They do. And, it's great because he's rising to the occasion. He sees the moment. He's in shape. He feels good. He's got a great relationship with Mac Jones, and they know each other. Jones has confidence in him, so he's going to feed him the ball. And you know what? Hey, great things can happen.
Yeah. He just had the best performance of his career 2 weeks in a row. So let's see if he can do it again. All right. Well, Tom, thank you so much for doing this with me every week. We'll be back again next week to talk about this game and preview the Texans.
Well, have a good day and enjoy Santa Clara.
Oh, I mean, it doesn't get much more enjoyable than Santa Clara. Before we go, Kanaya Spady says, shout out to my man for making me a Niners fan. Even though our team isn't the best of shape yet, we'll continue to stick because beside them before they win the championship. Appreciate you, Kanaya. Thank you for watching. Take care.